this weekend, and as I'm setting up for this weekend, I shouldn't just really isolate it because you talked about, they say that the game's coming thick and fast. I mean, Palace away, Galatasaray, Istanbul away midweek, and then Chelsea away in a week's time. This is a hell of a week coming up, isn't it?
Yeah, tough. Three away games on the bounce is always difficult, I think. And obviously, Selhurst is a tricky place to go. Galatasaray with the atmosphere, albeit I'm not sure it's as hard to go there now as it used to be. Maybe we'll see. Obviously, they've actually, to be fair, got a decent team when you look at it. So maybe, but the players are maybe not in the peak at the moment. So it could be tough. But I think if Liverpool approach in the right way, they can get the job done. And then obviously Chelsea have been a bit up and down this season. But I think they gave Liverpool two of the toughest games last season, albeit one of them came after Liverpool had been on the piss for a week. So exactly. It's I think. You'd like to think Liverpool can do that, but I think it just makes every game that extra percentage point more difficult, doesn't it, when it's away from home and when you've got a big trip in the middle, and it is a lengthy trip as well to go out to Turkey. That's not massively helpful. So, it's a good test really for Liverpool, and if they come through this with a decent wedge of points from all three, then you'll be thinking the position they're in already will look even more unbelievable, really.
Just feel like you almost got to see where it is at the end of the week before you sort of make sweeping judgments. But we should start with the team we're playing on Saturday. It's weird to say Saturday 3:00, but that is the game. Crystal Palace. Now, you could easily look at fifth and say we're better than Crystal Palace, but I think a few have mentioned this. The only other unbeaten side in the league, 5 games, they've only shipped 2 goals. This is probably a shout for the toughest one of the season so far, despite what we faced.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think, particularly with it being away from home, I guess Newcastle was ridiculously difficult. And actually, in hindsight, they've only conceded 3 goals, all of which came to Liverpool. So that's unbelievable that Liverpool did that, to be honest, particularly with all the narrative around it. But yeah, I think Palace is an equally difficult one. It's always tricky there. I feel like every time Liverpool go there, they seem to just win by the odd goal, and loads of them have been in the last minute as well. So, regardless, even if Liverpool win, you feel like it's going to be a really tight one. With Palace, I would say not to do them down, because I think they're going to be really good this season again. They're so well drilled, and they're difficult to score against in particular. But one thing I would say is they've maybe had a kind-ish start to the season.
Right.
And they've had a few draws in there as well, of course, because they don't score as many as they maybe should. I mean, I'm looking at goals for here. They've only scored 6. Liverpool have scored 11. So in a tight game, you'd maybe hope that Liverpool's extra cutting edge will make the difference there. But we saw against them in the Community Shield as well that they can really hurt Liverpool. So hopefully getting Gravenberch back in there will kind of cut off some of their cutting edge on the counter attack, and Liverpool will put together a more stable performance this time. But there's just no question it's a really tricky game for them, and another one where if they come out with the win, you'll be even more convinced about this team going on to lift the title, I think.
It just feels that the test is the right word, because we remember the Community Shield where they did win that, didn't they? They took it on pens there. They came back from a few goals behind, but they've got players like Mateta and Sarr especially. I don't know if Sarr's fit. Hopefully he's not, in a way, in the nicest sense. They just seem to come alive against us, doesn't they? Especially players like Sarr.
Yeah, because these are just ideal games for them as well, because Liverpool are going to want to dominate territory, dominate possession, and Palace are just so good on the break, and you've got so much pace and threat, and Mateta's just a really good hold-up man as well as the goal threat that he carries. So that's the worry about them, isn't it? When you come up against them, is they've got all that going for them. So yeah, Liverpool are just going to have to be better than they were in the Community Shield. I think they're going to have to be more solid in midfield. They're going to have to kind of really close things down and make sure that they stop those counters, which Gravenberch is so massively important to. Because if they don't do that, then Palace will hurt you. So as you say, it's a test, this one.
And people mentioning as well there that Eder's not, their star man or their former star man, not there. In a way, when we played Newcastle, Isak wasn't in either squad. So obviously there was boos, there was attention to it. But this is maybe a bizarre statement. Could it work a little bit for us in the essence that Mark Gay seems to be a quieter type, doesn't he? There's going to be a lot of focus and eyeballs talking about him for this one.
Yeah, he probably draws a bit less of the attention though about it, and I think he's really got his head down, hasn't he? And he's happy to still be at Crystal Palace, so it's maybe not as kind of controversial, really, particularly as Liverpool, they ended up. Well, up until Leone's injury, kind of happy with what they had at centre half, and it's definitely enough to maybe win a title. Whether it is now, we'll kind of see. But it didn't feel like there was as much enmity between the two sides as there was with Newcastle. So I don't think it's going to be as hostile around Mark Gay or anything like that. Right. And I think he'll want to just quietly go about his business, really. But yeah, it's a good chance for Liverpool to advertise that maybe they're worth joining again, and in January if possible, because they're going places. So yeah, and they'll be hoping he maybe has a poorer game than he usually does, because there's no doubt he's a very, very good player as well. And by the way, seeing a bit of worry about Gay and Real Madrid in the chat panel, for me that's a bit overblown, to be honest. I'm not so convinced that there's massively anything in that, really. And I've seen where that's been written and how it's been written. I'm not hugely convinced, not least because Real Madrid have got a decent shot of getting another centre half on a free transfer at the end of the season anyway, so I'm not sure they'd need Gay as well.
Yeah, if you were Mark Gay's agent, it'd be a good story just to give and drive contract talks, wouldn't it, and offers. So yeah, we'll see if there is anything on that. I'm not too sure either. In terms of this week as well, obviously we'll talk about the lineup shortly, but we're going to have to see rotation, aren't we, when you play 3 games like that and you do travel. There's not 21 anymore with Leone. There's 20. You do feel there is going to be I say this most weeks, and then there's not. And I know the Carabao's the exception. There's no Carabao Cup. Are we going to see real rotation this week?
I don't think massively. I think there's opportunities to do the odd bit of rotation through it. Obviously, I think Isak will probably start on Saturday because he absolutely has to now, because his other option isn't there. So. And then that lends itself then, doesn't it, to an Ekitike start at Galatasaray, and then maybe Isak coming back in for Chelsea. So, these kind of decisions kind of make themselves. And then you could make a similar case to do something like that with Frimpong and Bradley at right back, and, similarly Robertson and Kirkez at left back. I don't think we'll be seeing much rotation at centre half, unfortunately, because there's not that many options there. But central midfield, the old kind of Jones McAllister switch out that happens. The forward line, maybe Gakpo doesn't start every one of these, and do you give Engamo a go, or do you kind of bring Chiesa in? These are options. So I don't think it's going to be wholesale changes from game to game. But equally, I wouldn't be shocked if you went to Galatasaray and you see maybe 2 or 3 changes in there, or just to kind of mix it up a bit to keep certain players fresh.
Yeah, it is a tough one. And you're right. After the stupidity, as Arne Slot agreed to it, of Ekitike, he's not going to play on Saturday. Alexander Isak, you would expect to lead the line. I suppose one question I wanted to ask you about, and I suppose it encompasses midfield and attack, because it hasn't been the best start to the season for Cody Gakpo, that's fair to say. And people have been, asking about Florian Wirtz playing left. People are also mentioning, though, the midfield, especially against Everton, almost looked more fluid and solid without Wirtz in there and making that adjustment. Are you seeing Wirtz starting or playing on Saturday?
Yeah, 100%. I think that's the reason he misses the Carabao Cup game completely, is to kind of just throw him straight in for this one. I'd be absolutely amazed if he's not in the starting 11, to be honest, and in that kind of central midfield role, because I think, talk about the balance in the midfield or whatever, but, he starts in the midfield against Arsenal that keeps a clean sheet. It's the same at Burnley, where Liverpool were just penning them in, and, he's absolutely, for me, I don't think he's the reason the imbalance. I think the imbalance in midfield was maybe caused by Ryan Gravenberch not being there, and since he's come back, everything's looked fine. And I accept that, there's a little bit more to come from Wirtz, but we probably don't have to go over the top about that either. I think the goals and the assists are coming. You look at that Atletico Madrid performance, by the way, I thought he was excellent in that game. It somehow doesn't get a goal and an assist in it, despite playing brilliantly. So, I think he's in that first choice 11, and he absolutely should be as well.
It's interesting then, because if he's the 10, as you said, Ryan Gravenberch's got to be in there, first name on form right now on the midfield team sheet. Are you thinking then, I mean, Szoboszlai's been brilliant. McAllister sort of looked back to a bit like his best. Is it McAllister that could miss out for this one?
This is the one, isn't it? The really kind of tough decision to make, because I didn't think Wirtz would miss out against Everton. So that kind of decision has really been postponed to this game. And it's like, well, yeah, which way does he go with that? I honestly, very, very hard to say, to be honest. Maybe he does do the Wirtz thing on the left, but for me, I don't think you want to be doing that in the long term. I think you want to get Wirtz in that central position where he can really affect the game and kind of dictate it, really. So, yeah, tough decisions for the managers to make. But equally, if he does go Gravenberch, Szoboszlai, which for me, if you have to do something there, I think they're the two that should start, and then Wirtz ahead of them. Maybe McAllister, because he's not just quite been at his best form yet. But if you do that, it's then such an easy thing to do Galatasaray away to bring McAllister back in, isn't it? So, you can rotate your way through it quite healthily, be happy that you're using your squad and everybody's happy and everybody's getting games. So maybe that's the way to do it. But yeah, some tough decisions for the manager to make in terms of selection, really.
And I suppose you're right in terms of the good thing is, aside from there's still 20 players available, so there's great options from the bench. Isak's start's been forced, hasn't it, because of what Ekitike does, and then there's still good options. Like it's still possible Chiesa could go left for part of this. Ungamoa and break glass in case of emergency. Then Ekitike in for Galatasaray. There's still really no excuses for Saturday. The luxuries there for Arne Slot are amazing, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is it. We can talk about how good Crystal Palace are and how difficult it is to go to Selhurst Park, but Liverpool have a better squad by a million miles. So, they should be going there to win, and the options that will be on the bench, no matter what he selects, will be incredible. I mean, Ekitike might not be there, but your next sub to protect Isak is Chiesa, who is in excellent form at the start of this season. And, if Gakpo starts, you can unsettle them late on with bringing Ungamoa on, and you can push Frimpong into the front line. You've got so many options in that forward line. So, say no excuses. It's going to be a difficult game, but I think it's one that Liverpool should go into feeling that they can win 100%.
Yeah, there is real options there. Even with they should feel they can win 100%. I know we almost talked last week and led into this. This did feel like the toughest one. Is a point a good result? I know people are going to hate me asking the question that way, but is it with this game?
No, I think it is. Yeah, I think it is. As much as I'm saying Liverpool can win, and they absolutely can, I'm not ruling that out. If someone kind of offered me a point now, I wouldn't say that was a bad result at all. I know, the mentality of kind of 3 or 4 years ago when you think a point was a disaster, no matter where it was, really. You could get a bad point away at City sometimes, and Liverpool did in some of those title races. So, it's not like that anymore. I don't think the league is too competitive, too good to think that going to a team like Crystal Palace unbeaten in 17 and getting a point is a bad thing, really. So, I would shake hands on that now, to be honest. But I also think Liverpool are capable of getting more. So let's see what they get.
And I suppose now that they're coming into the line-up and we're starting to see this, we're never going to know for a little while, but do you think Isak and Ekitike could play some minutes together in this little run, or just because of the way it's worked, is it just an alternate situation now?
I just don't think we will see that really until Isak is fully fit, which I think the manager kind of alluded to will probably be the other side of this next international break. When he'll have had enough minutes by then, and then we'll go away with Sweden and probably play for them a couple of times, and that's when he'll feel like he's fully back. So, that's when that probably becomes a possibility, because at the moment they're on that kind of job share thing, aren't they, at the moment?
Yeah.
Which is the sensible way to do it, really, because you don't want either of them going down with injury. So, I think the other side of the international break, maybe there's a chance we'll see that in the old 4-4-2 or whatever, but not until then.
It is tough. We could 100% believe we can win, as you said. A point's not a bad result, as you said as well. What are you honestly thinking for this weekend?
I I did I was on LFC TV yesterday, and I predicted a 2-1 win with a last-minute winner for Liverpool. So I maybe have to stick with that, to be honest. I feel like they can go there and get something, but I just know it just feels like it's going to be tough because they always have been tough. Maybe actually Liverpool will, kind of be better on the basis that they've had that rest now, and everybody's coming back fresh. So that could be really, really helpful, and you could see the best of Gravenberch, the best of Salah, etc., because they've all had that time off. So maybe they'll rip into it and put on a really good performance. But Palace are good, so that's why I've gone for the tight scoreline.
Yeah, it does feel it'll be tight, as these games always are. We will see what Saturday 3:00 brings. We'll see what Arne Slot says in his press conference tomorrow morning as well. But for answering all the questions around the Carabao, injuries, transfers, contracts, and this coming weekend, as ever, David, it is massively appreciated.
Thank you for having me.
And ladies and gents, that was another Media Matters for Anfield Index.